Hey, what's up guys? And welcome to my first proper video here in my new home video studio. And in the spirit of things new and improved, let's talk about all the new and recently updated radar detectors that are now on the market. There's been a number of changes and well, some new detectors that have come out recently as well. And there's also going to be some new things coming out over the next couple weeks. And so pretty interesting time, but let's go ahead and go over the changes up to this point as far as all the new detectors and the recent firmware updates. So starting off with the Uniden R1 and R3, as you guys know, firmware 1.46 just came out. It adds a number of new things like MRCD and MRCT detection, which is really cool to see, especially considering, well, they're doing it on the existing hardware. You don't need a new hardware update for the detector. There's lockouts available on Ka band if you'd like. TSF has been changed, and I know a number of you guys aren't super happy about the changes to TSF. We found out that, yeah, there is a pretty long delay in TSF, longer than I think that there should be. Some of you guys are concerned about Dsm filtering changes or finding 1.37 did a better job. It was interesting, Brainstorm69 did some testing recently with two different R3s, one running 1.37, another one running 1.46. Now it's always tough to do really good BSM comparison just because if you're running multiple detectors, there's a chance of interference and all this kind of stuff, you know, but taking a look at his results, he was finding results were kind of mixed. Sometimes 1.37 did a better job at filtering out false alerts. Sometimes 1.46 gave fewer false alerts. Other times they were exactly equal. And again, it's kind of tough to figure out exactly how they compare, you know, just because, well, there's different cars on the road every time and all this kind of stuff. But according to Uniden, there's no changes as far as BSM filtering, but we're kind of still, you know, taking a look and seeing, are there any changes with TSF? And either way, I'd like to see them give us the option of the previous version of TSF for a variety of different reasons. And I think that would be a cool change to make in the future. But yeah, 1.46 is out now, and you can read all the discussion on the forums about that if you like. And I've got a link in the video description to my full update video about that. Now, something else that I'm really interested in is the new Tmg Laser Jammers.
Front laser. Dragon Eye Compact.
They're basically going to be a more affordable yet really good laser jammer. They're going to be a pretty strong alternative to the ALP. I'm liking them better than the Escort products, Blinder, Laser Interceptor, Stinger, etc. They're the first time I'm seeing like a good, strong contender to the ALP, and they cost less than the ALP too, which is really nice. Now the ALP does have more bells and whistles. It's got more advanced features that I really like, and I have no interest in switching systems myself, but they're looking like a really good option. I've got mine right here in the closet, you can see, or on my shelf. And as soon as they decide to release them publicly, there are some RDF members who have them already, but as soon as they have the public release, I'm going to be releasing a series of videos telling you guys all about the laser jammers. And something to note is they keep even now continuing to update and improve the jammers, and some of the things that I talked about in the videos, the first time I did the video I had to redo everything because they made so many changes, and I've since redone my video, and even since then there's been some changes, and so I might even have to release an update video to my updated version of the TMGs. In short, there's a lot of cool development that's going on there, and they're looking like a pretty strong laser jammer. So for those of you guys looking for an inexpensive laser jammer, those should be coming out here fairly shortly. They're not available to the public yet, but they should be released publicly here very soon. And as soon as they are, I'll definitely let you guys know and have a bunch of information for you. Now, moving on to the Radensos, we've got two firmware updates for the Radenso Pro M and for the RCM. The Pro M was just updated to US 13, and then they released another update right after that just changes some of the factory defaults, so it's US 14. And then the Radenso RCM, the remote version, was just updated to US 12. Basically, these updates address some of the most annoying attributes to the detectors that I've experienced, so I'm pretty happy about that. They've done some things like with the Pro M, they've added a Ka band segmentation, just like the RCM already has, to let you do things like turn 33.8, 34.3, 34.7, or 35.5. Those four kind of Ka ranges, you can turn them on and off individually instead of just having a Ka narrow option, which is pretty cool. That's going to help us deal with some of the like 34.3 falsing and whatnot that we don't have 34.3, so now you can actually shut off that range, which is really nice. There's other things like the 3 buttons on top of the detector. All of them now work for muting the detector, which is really nice, especially because it's tough to tell by feel exactly where the mute button is in the center. And so, well, now all of them work and you can just press any one of them. When it comes to lockouts, there's things like if the signal comes and then it goes, let's say it's a really brief alert, if the signal disappears, you still have the ability for up to 3 seconds after the signal disappears to create the lockout. And that's been really helpful. I like doing that to basically maybe drive and watch the ramp up, the signal strength, as it changes over time, and I can tell, okay, this is ramping up and down as I'm passing this door opener, drugstore near me, you know? But by the time I realize that, the signal may have already disappeared, and so now we have the option to start creating the lockout right after the signal is gone, and so we don't miss it and then have to lock it out next time. So that's a really nice change. There's also little things like they're improving the K-band and Ka-band alert tones, just kind of better balancing the volume. I'm still not a huge fan of the tones themselves. But I'm glad to see some improvements there. One thing that I'm really liking about the Radensos is I've been running them lately, maybe the past week or so, and I've been running the Pro-M, the RCM, and the R3, kind of trying all three of those. Not all at the same time, of course, due to interference issues, but I've been noticing things like how quiet the Pro-M is. It's nice because, well, it is able to filter out Hondas and Acuras. I'll be driving down the street, I'll see an Acura up the road, and my Pro-M on my windshield is silent. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I'll power on the unit in, and boom, it instantly starts going off to 24.199. I unplug it, just the Radenso again, and it is silent. That's really nice, you know? So I'm really liking that aspect of the Radensos. I plan on doing a kind of an updated version of the best radar detectors on the market, and this is something that I would like to address. There's other things about the detector that I'm not super excited about, things like long GPS acquisition times, some of the interface stuff and whatnot, but in terms of the Dsm filtering, yeah, they're doing a really good job there. Now, moving on to Escort, there's a bunch of stuff to talk about with Escort. There's a new detector that's going to be coming out soon. It's going to be called the Escort Ix. It's, well, basically an Escort Ix with Wi-Fi built in, just like the Max 360C has. So you're going to have the automatic updates and you know, ability to connect to Escort Live over Wi-Fi instead of via your phone with Bluetooth. So Escort looks like they're pushing their whole connected car thing. So the Ix-C is going to be coming out, and we should have some more information about that here shortly. There's also the Max 2 Platinum that Escort recently came out with, and it's basically, they're bringing back a discontinued detector, the Max 2, and they're calling it the Platinum, and the only difference with the Platinum is that it has the new updated cigarette lighter cable, the one that has the USB port to charge your cell phone. So they're bringing back the discontinued detector, calling it a Platinum, and giving you a new power cable. That's cool. It's going to retail for $399. You can already get it. It's weird. I was looking this morning, and they've since pulled it off of Escort's website, but you can still find it online. The Beltronics GT1, I've done a video about that as well. It's basically a Beltronics version of the Escort Passport X80. So another version of the same exact detector we already have. You can find it on Amazon now for $299, and so that's just another detector that, well, I've done a video about that as well, and now it's available for sale. Now moving on to updates to existing detectors. Let's start with the Redline E X. There's been a couple different firmware updates, 1.10, 1.11, and 1.12. The Redline E X International has now been updated to 1.10, and there's really no changes to speak of. It's just running changes, just kind of quiet behind the scenes stuff, but no changes as far as features, performance, filtering, anything like that. So you can update if you like, but nothing really changes in terms of our experience. Next, the Escort Max 360C International version. That one was just updated to version 1.3, which helps to fix some excessive laser falsing issues. There are no updates currently beyond what we already have for the North American versions, including the Max 360 and the Max 360C. This update only applies to the international version of the 360C. Next, taking a look at the Max CI and the Max CI 360, Escort's top-of-the-line remote detectors. Those have recently been updated. The Max CI, it's now at 1.5, and the Max CI 360 is now at 1.9. Basically, the latest updates just help address an issue where the display and the voices were out of sync, and, well, the update helps to bring them back into sync. Now, there's been a series of updates for the detectors, and one of the updates actually bricked the detector to the point where you couldn't update it anymore, and you had to take the detector in for service or actually take it out of your car and ship it to Escort or something. It was kind of a big deal. However, within about a week or so, they released an update to their, well, update software, Detector Tools Pro, and that one has the ability to update a bricked Max CI or Max CI 360. So for any of you guys who have encountered that issue, I'm going to drop a link down in the video description to where you can download the latest version of Detector Tools Pro and the update process that Escort has released as far as how to fix your brick detector. So that's good news, especially with a custom install detector that you can't easily just, well, pop off your windshield and send out or anything. Like, it's kind of tough to do that. So I'm glad to see that they were able to address it just via software in that respect. Now moving on to JBV1, it is a third-party app for the Valentine 1. John Boy, the developer, has been doing some really cool stuff with it. New features that are being added there. One of the biggest ones I think to talk about is the integration that he's working on with the Tmg Laser Jammer. And so for those of you guys who run a V1 and run Android, you're going to be able to run his app, and his app is going to be able to respond when you get shot with laser. You can JTK from the phone, and it actually looks pretty cool. I'm pretty excited to see what he's doing with it.
Front laser, LTI true speed, laser ahead.
His app is not currently designed to be used standalone, so it's not going to apply to those of you guys who don't run a V1, but I do think I saw a mention of him working on a standalone version. So that's good news for those of you who run Android but don't also use a V1. Moving on to Whistler, they released their CR95 and CR97, which is basically a higher performance version of the CR88 and the CR93. Basically just bumps the sensitivity on both K-band and on Ka-band, which is really nice because those detectors, the performance was pretty bad before.
Ka-band 34/7.
And that was one of the biggest issues with them. And so it's nice to see that there's been a nice little bump in performance. And so far, the couple people who have the detectors are reporting good things about them. So I'm really happy to see that. Shh. Now, there haven't been any new features that have been introduced or changes to the filtering. I ran the CR93 for a little while, and I really wasn't that impressed with the false alerts on both K-band and on Ka-band. And none of that has changed. And so, you know, I'm glad to see a better offering now from Whistler, but at $250 for the CR97, it's the one that has the GPS capabilities, but unfortunately it doesn't have GPS lockouts, which I think is a pretty critical feature these days. It's kind of a must to have if you're going to be doing any sort of urban driving. For a few bucks more, you can get the DFR9. I think that's like $329 or so. And for the extra money, I do think that that's worth it over the CR97, if for nothing else, for just the lockouts alone. And so I'm not super excited about the new Whistlers myself, but I'm glad to see that there's now a better offering from Whistler. And hey, the more options that we have, the more competition on the market, the better for us as customers and as consumers, you know? So that's cool to see. Moving on to Stinger, they have an update that they're releasing for their laser jammers. As you guys know, they're the ones who do the fiber optic laser jammers. And the heads for the jammers are really, really small compared to a traditional laser jammer head. Now, in the past, the way they've done it is they have fiber optic transmitters, but traditional laser receivers. The receivers are still smaller than a traditional laser jammer head, but you had a bigger receiver and a very small transmitter. However, they're now releasing a new update that has fiber optic transmitters and receivers, which is really cool. However, there's a big issue with the new laser jammers, and that's the fact that this update does not apply to anybody who already has Stinger laser jammers. You're going to have to get all new hardware, and so they're not really taking care of their existing customers, and this isn't the first time. They've had the first gen laser jammers that they released here in the US, eventually they wanted to upgrade the laser analyzer box, the LAB, upgrade the laser, all that kind of stuff, and so they released all new hardware. And so anybody who had a Stinger jammer, if you wanted the fiber optic transmitters, new version of the jammers, then, well, you had to get a completely new system. Cliff, the distributor at the time, actually paid out of pocket to help some people cover those costs, but yeah, it required all new hardware. Now we have a new laser jammer as well, and again, we're having to get all new hardware. And maybe one of the biggest issues here is the fact that they never fully got their existing laser jammers to be solid and reliable and capable. When I tested it, I really wasn't that impressed with the performance. Yeah, I really like the small heads, but if they're not able to jam reliably or well, I mean, does it really matter that much? And to see that they're not actually like bringing existing customers, the performance there up to par, and they're just releasing new hardware yet again, I don't know. I just don't know if it's a good idea to like buy into the Stinger platform, seeing the way that they're approaching it. I really do like the fiber optic thing. I think that's awesome, and I totally get that from time to time you do have to update hardware. You know, if you get a new iPhone every couple of years, eventually you do need a new phone, you know. But at the same time, I really do feel that they should fully take care of their existing customers so that people who are wanting to buy a Stinger aren't going to be like, well, are they going to give me everything that they promised when I bought, or am I going to find out down the line that they're releasing a new product and then I'm just left here with old hardware that never really got all the features that I was promised out of the gate, you know? So new stuff with Stinger, but yeah. And then, well, I guess the last thing, speaking of hardware changes and updates, for those of you guys who want to upgrade from the original NetRadar to the NetRadar DSP, the newer one with better performance, better filtering, and the ability to detect the MRCD without a secondary antenna, there's now an upgrade that's available to where you can just send in your old detector, and for $199, they'll send you the updated detector in return, which is pretty cool. So you can use your existing ones, or if you want the new version, you have that ability at a discounted rate instead of paying full price for the new one. So that's a pretty cool option for those of you guys who want to upgrade from the old version, which worked well, but you want to upgrade to the newer version with better performance and more capabilities. You have that option now with the upgrade process that they now offer. And as with the upgrade here and everything else that I talk about, I'll put the links to all this stuff down in the video description, so you don't have to spend a ton of time searching. You can just go down there and look, and everything you need will be down there. So yeah, as you can see, a whole bunch of different changes and updates. There's new stuff coming. I know at SEMA there should be some new radar detectors as well as some new dash cameras that are going to be announced. And so when I find out more about that, I will definitely keep you guys posted, shoot a video, and upload it here to YouTube. So yeah, looking forward to sharing that with you guys. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.